my name's David Bottrill, and you're listening to Two Guys Talking About Rush.
Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys.
And now, get ready for the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast with your hosts, John Kane and Dan Buxton.
Hey folks, this is John Kane and this is the delightful Dan Buxton, and welcome to episode 47 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast. This ain't Two Guys Talking Taco. It's two guys talking the incredibly iconic Rush. So listen in, folks, and discover the best damn Rush podcast in the entire Solar Federation. Two Guys Talking Rush. Dan.
John, there's part of me that wants to rush to Taco's defense, but no, not doing it.
It's hotter than a vapor trail out there, buddy.
Yes, it is. Exactly. It's hot. Yeah, actually,
it's so hot, man.
I hate this. I'm an ample gentleman, as anyone watching can see. I could do to lose some pounds, as they say. Yeah. The heat.
Me too.
I cannot do this. I absolutely cannot do this, and it makes me want to move to like Greenland or someplace. It's where it just like never gets above 20 degrees.
I'm sweating. I'm sweating right now, and I was worried that you thought I might be looking like desperate or something.
We're both desperate.
I have that stain that they always have in like the 70s sitcoms, like by some greaser or whatever, with the stain right in the front of my shirt.
Oh, there's
the constant sweat stain.
Dude, every single one of my shirts has like a little like black bean something here. So I had to start buying shirts in darker colors rather than try to lose weight or eat more. Yeah, rather than change.
Rather than get healthy.
Yeah, no, buy different shirts.
Well, New York must be blazing. I mean, it's hot awful here, but New York just like the concrete, the buildings sort of bake everything. Yeah.
You open the door and there's just this like blast of heat. Yeah. And it's sort of like if someone is blowing a hairdryer in your face. And your first thought, the second you feel it, is, why does God hate me? It's that kind of a thing, and I mean, you go on about your day and all that, but I mean, the whole time, I understand why more murders are committed in hot weather than
holy Dan.
I totally get it.
Oh my God, the Son of Sam, buddy.
With
the Son of Sam, we watched that. Remember during the blackout?
Sons of Sam.
The Sons of Sam. Yeah. That documentary looks crazy. And for folks who don't know what we're talking about, there's a documentary on Netflix. Is it the Sons of Sam? What's the name of the documentary?
Sons of Sam.
Sons of Sam. And but for me, about the what's the cat's name who committed those murders again with the group? Berkowitz. Yeah. So there's a whole spin on this, and it being a group of actual, a satanic cult actually doing this sort of stuff. Anyway, they skipped over the part where it was like sort of skipped right over the blackout and the heat.
I know.
That was sort of a drag. I mean, I like that whole thing, but
I mean, I was here when that happened. I mean, I was like 7 or 8 or something like that when it happened, and it's just, I can't even explain to you how it is when the most populous city in the United States suddenly it's not working.
Right.
And it happened again, I think, in 2003.
Yeah.
During the day while I was at work, and we all still had total 9/11 paranoia.
Oh man!
Where anytime anything happened, we were like, "Is this it? Is this the next one?"
Brutal.
So of course everyone was like, "Oh, this is the next terrorist attack." But no, it just turned out that some like power plant employee in Ohio, like leaned against the wrong thing.
Point being is that the heat brings on the crazies and weird things. It's so strange. It just really does.
Yeah, I feel like I should just say Rush. just so people know this is still that podcast.
Yeah, we're talking here.
Shooting the shit
about taco, putting on the Ritz. Yeah. Anyway, well, hey, listen, here we are, another episode. And my point being, Hell's Kitchen. That's just an area of New York.
Yes.
It's not the entire city of New York. Is it
Close
referred
enough.
to as Hell's
I
Kitchen?
mean, it's one neighborhood, but
yeah.
Once you get outside and it's like 105 degrees, I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where you are. Yeah.
Well, here we are, folks. We're creeping up on our R50 here, and Dan and I were just sort of reflecting before we started recording this about how incredible it is to keep this podcast going for you all, and what makes it so special and different. And we're really glad to be here with you and to talk about Rush and get into some subject matter. Anyway, so this show is hosted by fans for fans, and our listeners know we are inclusive. Each week we try to mix it up with guests and content, and we want you, the fans, to join us on this magnificent journey. Before I forget, I want to thank our guests on episode 45 and 46, the mighty Mike Dixon and
yes.
Mark Cunningham. And as a reminder, Mike Dixon was one of the movers on the Rush's 1981 multi-platinum album Moving Pictures, and Mark Cunningham is the organizer for Prague for Peart, which happens Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th, and Saturday the 14th. And 16 Prague bands play 2 gigs over 2 days and live on the internet. And it's to celebrate the life of Neil Peart, to raise funds to combat brain cancer that stole his life. You can find more about this very cool event at www.northcourtmusic.com/Prague-4, the word for -Peart, and check it out and support a worthy cause in the UK. Right. Anyway, that was cool. Yeah, Mike, just having the mover, I refer to as the movers and the shakers, but just what'd you think of Mike? He was sort of
he was great. I mean, quite aside from the fact that he literally moved pictures. It was interesting to me to hear the perspective of a guy who was a musician, like at the same time that all that was going on. I felt bad for him because he was basically like, I could never see them because I was always working, which is cool. But I mean, at the same time, it's like when you get to be on like their biggest hit album on the front, that's got to be worth something. By the way, I just read that they are in fact doing something for the 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures, which you are probably aware of. It's going to be the same like box set with probably like a live concert thing that they've done for the last few releases. So something is coming.
Why do you think that was released so late? Why not?
I don't know. It might actually have something to do with vinyl, because vinyl pressing is going really badly right now, is my understanding.
Because of the heat?
I'm not sure what it is, but it's getting held up.
That was a stupid question. Like, those places have air conditioning.
Oh, I honestly have no idea. Maybe it's like
lack of resources, perhaps, or
probably
just
lack of resources,
manpower.
Yeah, you may also just have people who are still like COVID as just the all-purpose excuse for shit not happening. Yeah. But no, I mean, like a lot of artists have said that there have been like real problems getting vinyl pressed lately. So like Neil Young keeps having this problem with all the archive stuff that he wants to put out, where he has to keep pushing it back because the holdup is the vinyl every single time. And of course, everyone wants vinyl. So there you go. But that may be part of it. That may have something to do with it. Yeah.
Well, anyway, interesting conversation there. I'd like to give a shout out to a friend of mine. I recently, I don't know if fans of this show or just fans of rock and roll in general remember a 2005 film called Rock School. Inevitably, it went on to inspire School of Rock with Jack Black. The gentleman who sort of was the protagonist in this documentary, the leader of this school of rock in Philadelphia, is named Paul Green, and super guy, extremely knowledgeable about music in general, and of course had this sort of insight and leadership skills to put together a school of rock at a time where there wasn't any. And it's sort of cool, because how do young people learn about the history of rock and roll if their parents aren't into it? and let's say, they have an open mind to it. I mean, where do they go? I mean, there's the internet, but there's something to say for a social gathering and this sort of construct of music as it relates to the history of rock and roll, its origins, its origin story, and the bands that sort of stood out, the classic rock bands and others that sort of stood out and were sort of captured milestones or capstones in their careers through albums and movements in music that inspired future generations. And he did that with Rock School, the Paul Green School of Rock. And anyway, I was on my Facebook page, and he puts out a blast that says, hey, my band, my student band, my high school student band, the Paul Green Rock Academy. He's since sold that previous version, I believe. And he puts out a call and says, hey, these 30 students are going to be supporting Ian Anderson on tour.
No way.
For his tour. Yeah, they just had an announcement on in Rolling Stone, and he was looking for sort of people along the way of their tour that could sort of sponsor or have these student musicians play on an off day in front of an audience, not with Ian Anderson, but with I'm saying it right? The lead singer of Yes, Ian Anderson.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, of Yes.
Sometimes of Yes, not Ian Anderson.
Oh no, that's John Anderson.
John Anderson.
Ian Anderson
is Jethro Tull. Yeah. John Anderson. Oops, John Anderson. Dude, there's so many Niles, Ians, and I get confused all the time. I shouldn't, but do you?
Yeah. I get confused, but I mean, who cares?
Yeah, John Anderson, legendary lead singer of Yes. So he's on tour, and the backing band of Paul Green Rock Academy is going to support him in all these cool songs. So I connected with him, and we perhaps have a venue set up for him in a town near me for those kids, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll mention more of it as we go on. But I told Paul I'd give him a plug tonight and check out that tour and support John Anderson on that tour and support the kids. It's a good thing.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, it's cool. Interesting story. A little rock story there. Anyway, as a reminder, you can hear our podcast on TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Simplecast, and others. The show is recorded in video, so please check out our YouTube channel and click subscribe. Do it. A quick Rush Radio shout out. You can find Rush Radio on the TuneIn app and at rushradio.org. But a big, huge thank you to Ed Stinger. I wouldn't hug him right now. I'm too sweaty. But a big thank you to Ed Stinger. In fact, maybe I would. I'd just go right at him all sweaty. Big shout out and thank you to Ed at rushasaband.com. We love Rush as a Band, as well as Power Windows website, 2112.net. Check them out. Another shout out to the mighty Why Not, who are putting out a new album, Light and Shade, fairly soon. And we're following those guys, and they're going to be with us in the fall. Their music can be heard in the intro of our show. We want to hear from Rush fans, and if you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, questions, concerns about the show, please submit them to twoguystalkingrush@gmail.com. We're always looking for super fans, and we often have a Rush superfan spotlight. We're going to have one in the coming weeks. We have a group of Rush superfans joining us. And so what makes you a superfan? Why do you consider yourself a superfan? Please email us and tell us why you should be on the show. And our website is twoguystalkingrush.com, facebook.com/twoguystalkingrush, twitter.com/2guystalkrush. And again, click on our YouTube channel. You can support us on Patreon /2guystalkingrush and at our website, twoguystalkingrush.com. We actually have some fan mail here. We got some fan mail.
I do love the fan mail.
I know.
Yeah.
Drink of water. I feel like I'm dehydrating every second of the way here.
Every 20 minutes, you're allowed to have one sip of water.
I should just do this from a bathtub with a straw.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That would be good. Just sip my own bath water. That's disgusting. Ugh, why did I get on that?
As long as you don't drink it, you're good. Yeah.
That's what I meant, to put a straw in the water.
Oh,
a bath of spring water.
You need one of those helmets. You need one of those helmets with the Bud cans on either side. Keep you properly hydrated at all times.
Dude,
hands free.
I'd get arrested if I had something like that on my head. I don't know why. I just feel
someone would have a problem with it.
Totally. Yep. Here's the fan mail. What is up, Dan and John?
Should be John and Dan.
Whatever. Just listen to the latest episode, and you mentioned Rush stamps. Now, when we were talking last episode, I think it was episode 45, we were talking about all these sort of idiosyncrasies and these focuses these Rush fans have, from tattoos to whatever. We made a joke about Rush stamps. Are there Rush stamps out there? So here we go. Someone was listening.
Really?
Well, I have a book of 2112 stamps from Canada, and he sent us a pic. I'll include it on the show. On the old YouTube. Also, I went to see Foo Fighters at MSG in NYC on June 20th and was wearing a Farewell to Kings t-shirt. While walking the streets after the concert, a guy walking by started to sing Xanadu, and I started singing it with him. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Nice. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Your podcast is my go-to now. Well, thank you, Brent.
Well, shit. Yeah. Wonderful.
Hope we can make you laugh and keep you engaged. Keep up the great work. It just keeps getting better. Thank you. This is from Brent from Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Right on, Brent.
That's great. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
I really am.
Send me a letter.
All we have to do is wonder aloud about something, and one of our fans will say, in fact, as it turns out, yes, there are actual Rush, what's that called? Philately, I think, if you collect stamps. Yeah, so
if you're
I
a
guess,
collector of stamps, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
Dan,
probably-
pulling that one out of
thank you
your
very
ass.
much. Yeah,
you're welcome.
And yes, that's the right orifice too.
So
but
I saw you kind of yanking something, but it's like,
Yeah.
holy wow, good for you.
I think that, but I mean, I think there is, like, on that Venn diagram of like people who collect stamps and Rush fans, I am not surprised that there's a little overlap.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's great, and that's all I can say, Brent, is get your pen out, your quill, and your parchment paper, and scribe us a letter. And right, am I saying it right? Okay, good. Am I right? Scribing.
You could also say scrivening.
Oh, Jesus, Dan! I'm not going to say scrivening.
Yeah.
What is this? What are you? William Shakespeare?
Yes, I'm
listen,
William Shakespeare.
You kind of look like William Shakespeare.
Thank you.
Now, listen. If you had the little thing here, you would.
Yeah. Then we'd have an issue. Yeah. Exactly.
But wasn't a scribe someone who wrote the letters for the kings? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't even know how I just Game of Thrones probably.
Game of Thrones at Rush, honestly.
Rush.
Like a lot of these terms
I know
came to me via Rush, but like years before Game of Thrones was a thing for me. So
I just impressed myself.
yeah, nice.
Here we go. Rush tour news history. 1967, Alex Lifeson saw the group Mandala at the North York Centennial Arena. Guitarist Dominic Troiano gave Lifeson his autograph and inspired him to practice hard if he wanted the chance to stand on stage and play for people someday. Also in attendance were Geddy Lee and their friend, future NHL Hall of Famer Steve Shutt. Wow, just legends in the audience on that evening. My lord. 1974, Rush played the Allen Theater in Cleveland, Ohio on the Rush tour. In 75, they played the Key to Bala in Bala, Ontario on the Fly By Night tour. In 84, I keep reminding myself, I have to put on Fly By Night. I just don't listen to it enough, and I love that album so much.
It's a great album.
I know.
It loses me slightly, like towards the end of side 2, slightly, but it gets me back right at the end. But it's early. So it's not like the one you go to, because they're not like a fully formed thing just yet. But it's a great album. Anytime, like certainly when I hear the beginning of Anthem, it's like, fuck yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
In 84, Rush played the Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois on the Grace Under Pressure tour. In 92, they played the World Music Theater in Chicago, Illinois on the final date of the Roll the Bones tour. In 97, they played the Molson Center in Montreal, Quebec on the Test for Echo tour. In 97, they played the Molson Amphitheater in Toronto, Ontario on the Test for Echo tour. Video footage from this show was later released on the R40 video box set, which I don't have. You have that? The R40 the video box set?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, lucky you. It's probably like $900 right now.
It was given to me as a gift, actually, by someone who I would describe as one of the biggest Rush super fans in my life.
Wow.
The mighty Scott Marshall. I'm name checking him right now.
Nice. That's a nice gift.
Yeah.
In 2002, Rush played the Meadows Music Center in Hartford, Connecticut on the opening night of the Vapor Trails tour. 2004, Contents Under Pressure, 30 Years of Rush at Home and Away. The Rush biography by Martin Popoff released. The mighty Martin Popoff. Everybody's mighty. The mighty Martin's all this legion of Rush fans, super fans, super people. 2004, Rush played the USANA Amphitheater in West Valley City, Utah on the 30th anniversary tour. 2006, today's PV Online comic strip featured a 2112 poster. I love little snippets like that.
Yeah.
2007, Rush played the Saratoga Performing Arts Center at Saratoga Springs, New York. That's a nice venue on the Snakes and Arrows tour. Have you ever seen a show?
No, Saratoga Springs is like nowhere near where it's like 4 hours away from.
It's north, right? Yeah. 2008, they play the Riverbend Music Theater in Cincinnati Center, the Riverbend Music Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, on the Snakes and Arrows tour. 2008, they play the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater in Maryland Heights, Missouri, on the Snakes and Arrows tour. In 2011, they play the Sheep Country Amphitheater in Portland, Oregon, on the Time Machine tour. 2011, they also played the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the Time Machine tour. 2013, they play the first Midwest Bank Amphitheater, Chicago, Illinois, on the Clockwork Angels tour. In 2013, last but not least, they play the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on the Clockwork Angels tour. What I like about this segment of the show of the Rush tour news history, it puts into perspective the consistency of this band, how they were always playing. I mean, the majority of the time playing and putting out music. I mean, there's enough content here for us to talk about that, and that in its own right just says so much about this incredible band.
I would use two words for that. I would say they were relentless, and they had a lot of depth in what they did. So it wasn't like they were just going for the sake of going. It was always quality.
Right.
I don't know how they were able to keep it up, honestly.
Yeah.
After Neil came back in the 2000s, it did slow down a little, but they were older and it was a little different then. But up until that point, it was just another one.
Absolutely. And, with these little snippets here, this is just scratching the surface of what they've been doing, throughout their career. Well, anyway, in recent Rush news, Alex Lifeson to appear on Sirius XM Volume's Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk very soon. And you can check that out online. Eddie Trunk announced recently on Twitter, and you should friend Eddie Trunk. I like Eddie Trunk. I listen to him all the time. I think he's a genuine dude, and he's first and foremost a huge fan, and he's made a nice career out of that. That's cool. Anyway, Eddie announced earlier on his Twitter feed, that Rush's Alex Lifeson will be a guest on his Trunk Nation show on Sirius XM Volume. Let's see, it's what's today's date? So you probably catch recaps of it. It comes up on the 30th. But you can listen to the show on Sirius XM Volume, channel 106. And Lurks has been very busy in recent weeks.
Yeah.
So you should have a lot to talk about. He recently surprised fans by releasing 2 new instrumental tracks, which we listened to on the show, via his new website, alexlifeson.com, coinciding with the release of his new signature Epiphone Les Paul Standard Access guitar. The 2 new tracks are titled Kabul Blues and Spy House, and both are available for listening online via his website. Andy Curran plays bass guitar on both tracks, and David Quinton Steinberg was recruited for the drums on Spy House, but otherwise it's all Lurks. And Curran later revealed in a Ultimate Classic Rock interview that these 2 tracks are just the first glimpses of a new Alex Lifeson side project collaboration with Curran guitarist Alfio Anna Bellini and vocalist Maya Wynn, called Envy of None. The project so far has recorded a total of 10 songs, and they're hoping to release an album by the late summer, early fall.
Well, damn.
There it is.
Yeah.
Some new stuff from Alex the Mighty. I'm not going to say it. Not the Mighty. The iconic.
The merciless.
The merciless. The incredibly iconic. The guitarist we all love on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, some good new music coming out, and that'll be fun to listen to that.
Yeah, there's going to be some good stuff on the Lifeson front. I was really happy to hear about that. Like, not only are there those 2 new songs, but there's an actual project with enough for an album coming out. You know, it was clear to me from the 2 songs that we listened to that he's going in a different direction.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to hear all of it. I think it's going to be great. I can't imagine him just like releasing some garbage and putting his name on. Yeah, it's good for him.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
it is good. Well, he's a talented man, and he's exploring other things, and it's great. I think I'm in full support of it.
Yeah, he deserves to have a life after Rush, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Ultimate Classic Rock reported earlier today, again, that Rush's Alex Lifeson has recorded a new track with Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello and Metallica's Kurt Hammett as part of a virtual guitar summit he recently attended with the pair. The song is slated to appear on a project that Morello is currently putting together. Here it says Morello kept things simple for his new project, sending over a couple of different riffs as a starting point for Lifeson. Quote, he said, put whatever you want on it, the more the merrier. Lifeson recalls he was going to give it to Kirk Hammett, and Kirk was going to do the same thing. Still, Lifeson didn't stick to his usual playbook for his contribution. Being the contrarian, I did all of these other styles, not just heavy rock stuff, he says. We were all talking to each other while we were doing it. We just had such a riot. I sent my stuff in, and it went to Kirk. Then he sent his stuff in. Lifeson recently heard an early mix of the track and was thrilled with the result. He thinks fans will dig it too. He says it's really some fun music. He notes it's so Tom Morello. It's so Tom Morello, his parts. I just smiled the whole way through listening to it. I thought it was really, really, really cool the way it turned out. And end quote. And even though Morello most likely meant the song to be a one-off collaboration for the trio, Lifeson, for one, is up for more. I'm hoping that he might have something else to send along, he says. So looks like Alex is just having fun.
Yeah, good.
And I actually like Tom Morello. I think he's different, and he's just made this sort of sound.
Yeah.
This Morello sound, you know. Are you a fan of Rage Against the Machine?
No.
Okay. That's cool.
That's all I got. A lot of, I don't know, I feel like a lot of like the metal that was made
on that note, I have to say something. I'm more of a Morello fan than I am a Rage fan.
That's understandable.
Yes.
I think a lot of it really has to do with the fact that when they came out in like the mid 90s or something like that, I noticed that I was not as connected to popular culture as I had been a few years ago.
Sure.
I was starting to get older. Yeah. And I think I resented them for me getting older. So I think it has something to do with that. It's not them.
They are considered a Gen X band, but you just sort of moved on. I mean, the 90s were was the Gen X generation, right? The 80s and 90s, that would be our little pocket, right?
In my humble opinion, and we may get some mail for this, in my humble opinion, almost all of the popular rock music that was made in the 90s, in my humble opinion, was absolute garbage. Like Nirvana, Pearl Jam.
I was never a huge Nirvana fan.
I hate them.
Yeah, I like Alice in Chains. I mean, if I was to have a band that I would choose out of the grunge era, absolutely Alice in Chains for me.
I would say them for sure. I loved them for sure. Yeah. Soundgarden, I loved.
Yeah, in Soundgarden. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree.
And this is a little silly that I'm sitting here saying it was all shit, but I actually really liked Stone Temple Pilots. I thought they could write songs.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, on that note, I saw Stone Temple Pilots probably 5 or 6 times during that era, and they were just rock and roll. I mean, that's all it was. Yeah. You know what I mean? There was nothing, and the songs were very good. I mean, put on any Stone Temple Pilots album, you're going to hear something that's really, really good, you know?
Yeah, I felt really bad because they were usually referred to as that they were these rip-off artists who were ripping off what Pearl Jam had done, and I was
absolutely not.
Not at all. Yeah. These guys are actually good. That's the difference between them and Pearl Jam, is I can tolerate more than 15 seconds of their music. Yep. I have never liked Pearl Jam. I've never understood why anyone likes them. To this day, I'm utterly hostile towards them. Do not get it. But Stone Temple Pilots could write songs.
Absolutely.
Scott Weiland was a really good singer, I thought.
Excellent.
Eric
and a great front man.
Yes, Eric Kretz is a great drummer who does not get nearly enough credit for what he did.
I agree.
And
heavy. He kept it simple. He was right in the pocket. I agree. Yep.
He did the job. Exactly.
And he complimented the music. Like he did it. Yeah. And the brothers, man.
They're great.
DeLeo brothers, right? DeLeo.
Yeah, but I do have to be a bummer now and say that I'm living in absolute terror of what the movie that they're going to make about Scott Weiland is going to be like. They just announced that they're making and it's like, oh, great. So it's going to be what, like Zac Efron or as Scott Weiland?
The new guy they have now, I think is just a major Scott Weiland fan. And he was, from what I gather, he was on American Idol or something like that. And they picked him up, and he's good. He's competent. I have the fondest memory. I remember after seeing the Stone Temple Pilots at the Orpheum Theater, they were playing they had a whole string of small shows. I mean, they could fill an arena or play a small theater. And we were all sort of hanging out on the corner on Comm Ave or whatever, Park Street, right across from Park Street. And we were on the corner of Hamilton Place. And the tour bus comes out, and Scott just literally throws his body out of the tour bus. He's like, "Ah!" He just sort of like, but he was he seemed like such a cool dude. I felt so bad that he died from heroin. He had such a problem with drugs. So sad.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell like the fact that like the bands he was in never really tried to get rid of him.
Yeah, right.
Meant to me like they recognized his talent, but also it was like a friend. And they didn't want to.
Did you like the Velvet Revolver?
No.
Yeah. Did you like Guns N' Roses?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I tried really hard to love Guns N' Roses. I got so sick of that first album, man. People just.
I worked in a record
the hell out
store.
of it. Yeah,
I worked in a record store when that album was out, and it was. I heard it
over and over
on a good day. It was only 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times.
Most days it was at least 5 times, and I was like, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, when I die and go to hell, that record will be playing for all of eternity. Yeah, exactly.
She's got.
I
hear you.
I do like the last minute of November Rain, and
you mean when
I also like the. Yes, as it ends. And
was that the video where he jumped off the ship to swim?
That was
dolphins?
Estranged. Yeah,
Jesus,
that was another ridiculous 9-minute video.
God,
no, the other thing that they did that I liked was that they stole for Paradise City the riff from Zero the Hero from Black Sabbath.
They did. I agree. They totally did. Yeah,
I don't think calling it theft is hyperbole at all. It's like, okay, we're taking this and putting it here.
It's so true, dude. I know.
Yeah.
We're sorry, folks. We're off. We go off on these tangents because both Dan and I we don't get to talk to each other much, and this is our time. And we both love music. We love Rush, and we love sort of talking with these peripheral bands. But yeah, you're right. Zero to Hero, Born Again, is very much Paradise City. And I challenge anybody.
Yeah, it's like it's not even like they're not even trying to pretend that it's anything else.
I know. Well, moving on, Rush's Moving Pictures 40th anniversary box set release. We have an update for that. Dan, you were just talking about that. Over the past several years, Rush has released 40th anniversary editions of several of their classic albums, including 2112, A Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres, and Permanent Waves. That's about $3,000 in box sets right there.
Yeah.
So it had been expected that they'd give Moving Pictures, which celebrated its 40th anniversary in February 2021, a similar treatment. But after the 40th anniversary of the album's release came and went without any news of any anniversary box set, it led many fans to speculate whether there would even be a 40th anniversary release this time, or if perhaps it would just be delayed until later in the year. According to some fans, who attended a VIP meet and greet event for Hugh Syme's new art exhibit this past week in Austin at the A05 Gallery. We mentioned that on the previous show. It turns out that the latter is the case. Rush's longtime album artist spoke with fans and confirmed that there would be a Moving Pictures 40th anniversary box set coming soon, and that he had submitted the final artwork for the set just last week. So it's probably safe to bet that something will be coming out. On the same note, hopefully Usain doesn't get busted for leaking some important information. But it doesn't matter, that stuff comes out anyway.
If Hugh Syme is like pretty close to almost getting it from the horse's mouth in a lot of ways. So it's probably okay. I'm gonna assume it's probably okay.
Rush's fourth member.
They've had a lot of fourth members. Like there've been many fourth members.
I know. So what member do you think he is? He falls into the fourth or the fifth?
I would say Terry Brown really was for a while there. He was the fourth member. Hugh Syme did not play any music.
That's true.
This makes it hard for him to be a member. However,
he did create the artwork for early on, though.
That's true. And there are some bands like Procol Harum was one, and King Crimson is one, where they had separate people write the lyrics.
Yep.
Who never performed with the band, but they were still considered full members.
Yeah,
so
Robert Hunter, Grateful Dead.
Right, exactly. So like in that sense, I would say he was a member, definitely. Yep. And I mean, it's everything he's done stands on its own. So it doesn't need me to legitimize it.
Totally. Neil Peart's Bubba Gump snare drum collection is for sale via Soul Drums. Soul Drums of Canada has been commissioned to sell a small selection of Neil Peart's snare drums used on various Rush tours over the past 25 years. Oh, I wish I had the money for something like that. I know. I can't pay the rent this month, honey. I have a snare drum, though. I bought a snare drum.
I bought a Bubba Gump.
Exactly. 3 snare drums from the Bubba Gump collection are currently available for sale via the Soul Drums website. Check that out. For 20 years, Neil Peart and his drum technician Lauren Gump Wheaton were at the pinnacle of presenting the very best in rock drumming performance, known affectionately as Neil Bubba Peart by bandmates and stage crew and family and others. They became Bubba Gump, and through all the album concepts, the drum sets, the snare drums, and the cymbals became the reference for the best in drumming design, pure sonic power, incredible inspiration. There are no comparisons. Together, Soul Drums and Bubba Gump are offering the best known snares and drums from the Test for Echo era, Vapor Trails, Snakes and Arrows, Clockwork Angels, and R40 tours. These incredible instruments represent the art, history, and science of modern rock drumming and celebrate the legacy of a true master. And it's true, this is like a work of art. This isn't something you hit.
Right.
I always loved in the documentary where they open up in the Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary, where they open up with sort of Neil playing, and he goes, "Oh, I broke a bass drum head." And I'm thinking like, wow, that's so like John Bonham, like probably has maybe did that a couple of times. So right there, boom, and I love it. So
I imagine that was one in a long line of bass drum heads that he probably broke.
Imagine how hard you have to hit that to do that.
Pretty fucking hard.
I know, man. Alex Lifeson is in the news all over with Envy of None, and we're looking forward to that as I look on to Rush News. Recently, the Gooding and Company announced that Neil Peart's extensive classic car collection, dubbed the Silver Surfers by Neil himself, will be going up for auction at its 17th annual Pebble Beach auctions on August 13th and 14th, Woodstock weekend. I can't get it. There it is.
That will never go away.
I know. Dan, what are you doing Woodstock weekend? Anything?
I don't think anything, actually.
Lighting some incense?
Sitting in mud for 72 hours.
Both Dan and I are Woodstock authors. We've written books on Woodstock. And curious, are you going to go see Soul? Was it Soul on Fire? What is that? The Questlove documentary on the Harlem Cultural Festival. You hear about that?
This is the first time.
I'll send you a link. Okay. So here we are. Peart's love of cars was a lifelong passion, and his hunger for knowledge included learning everything there is to know about automobiles inside and out. Classic cars were what he dreamed of owning for many years, and upon purchasing his first, the 64 Aston Martin DB5, he exclaimed that he dreamed of owning this car since he was a boy. Finally, in a position to purchase classic cars of this quality, he slowly and carefully acquired each car until his dream collection, the Silver Surfers, was complete. So cool. Sadly enough, after bravely battling brain cancer for 3.5 years, Mr. Peart passed away on January 7th, 2020. On the naming of his collection, Peart wrote, "The title Silver Surfers for my collection of cars occurred to me while driving the DB5 up and down the Pacific Ocean because it felt right to me. I guess the idea that I was just one of the wave riders." That's so cool. I had moved from Toronto to Los Angeles in 2000, and in search of a natural peace, I often drove out that way and up into the Santa Monica Mountains, out past Malibu and Ventura County. Sounds magical. Weave along barren ridges of rock and vegetation. The ocean always on one big side. Some days would be misted by the marine layer, while other days the sun blared through the clear sky. The waves were slow and gentle, or churned out a powerful rolling rhythm. He's so poetic. I mean, he's just writing this reflection, of these, why he named these cars. It was during one of these drives when, out of nowhere, it just occurred to me that the color of the ocean had influenced the silver palette of the collection. What other color looks as good in a blue photo? Not black nor white, silver, and a fortunate risk for the framer's art too. Silver frames, so cool. The auction will include these 7 classic beauties. Dan, if you got an extra, 100,000 lying around. 63 Chevrolet Corvette split window coupe, a 64 Aston Martin DB5, 64 Jaguar E-Type Series I 3.8 liter coupe, 64 Shelby Cobra 289, a 65 Maserati Mistral Spider, a 69 Lamborghini Mira P400S, and a 73 Maserati Ghibli 4.9 SS. Oh, incredible. The Pebble Beach auctions will take place on the 13th and Saturday the 14th at Pebble Beach with a public preview on Wednesday, August 11th through Saturday. We'll have to check that out. And there are auction catalogs out there, and you can go to goodingco.com to check it all out.
Cool.
Well, back in March, the Rush Backstage Club revealed that a newly expanded and updated edition of Hugh Symes' The Art of Rush was due to be released later this year. The original edition was released back in 2015. This updated edition will include a newly designed cover along with an additional 20-page section featuring the artwork of Rush's 40th anniversary box set releases from recent years. The book was originally due for release in August, but due to COVID-related production delays, it's now slated for an October 12th release. This will contain all original illustrations, paintings, photography, and incredible stories behind each album that Hugh Symes has designed with the band since '75. The book's narration was written by music journalist Steve Humphries and includes in-depth interviews with each Rush band member and artist. The Art of Rush also contains entertaining anecdotes and commentary from a wide array of notable musicians, actors, athletes, writers, radio personalities, and Rush insiders about their favorite Rush album covers, which clearly reveals how vital and impactful the visual representation of their music has been through the years. One of the hallmarks of the Rush releases is the considerable care and consideration that goes into each one, including the conceptual art. Readers may be surprised to discover just how much effort went into each concept and execution for every album cover. And we love Hugh Symes on the show. Yeah. He's a legend, and the Art of Rush is just as impactful as the music of Rush. In many ways, they both go hand in hand, and we love that. UltimateGuitar.com posted their list of 25 songs that make you want to turn up the volume last Friday, and for Dan, it's Taco, Putting on the Ritz.
The extended version, I hope. Yeah.
The dance mix. And the 20-minute dance mix. And you listen every time you take a shower, right, Dan?
Yeah, I have to stay in there the whole 20 minutes too, to make sure I don't miss anything.
You come out looking like Taco.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you come out eating a taco and like a towel.
Squeaky.
Listening
totally
to
squeaky. Yeah.
Eating a taco while listening to Taco. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to do that. Last Friday, so Rush's Tom Sawyer made the cut at number 20. Number 20. Come on, folks. Number 20. That doesn't even sound right.
Get that up there.
That's a mistake.
That is a mistake.
UltimateGuitar.com. Get on that. Send them emails.
Yeah.
The latest issue of Classic Rock Magazine contains a feature titled The 7 Weeks That Changed Rock, where Rich Hobson dissects a period of 7 weeks in the summer of '91, which saw the release of several classic rock albums, including Rush Roll the Bones, which released on September 3rd, '91. Ultimate Classic Rock posted their list of top 50 progressive rock albums yesterday. List after list. Top 50 progressive rock albums. And 2 Rush albums made the cut. Both Hemispheres at 19 and Moving Pictures broke the top 10 at 6.
Interesting.
Yeah. I wonder after COVID if there are going to be as many lists. It seems like COVID brought on the list.
Honestly, for as long as I've been writing, we have lists for the internet. It's just everything has become list, and I don't expect that to go away anytime soon. Especially since I cannot help myself. Anytime I see there's a list, I click it. So I'm part of the problem.
Speak, Speaking of moving pictures, Pace Magazine published an article this past week highlighting the 25 best albums of '81, and the album took the top spot at number 1. Rush drummer Neil Peart once said that if it were up to him, he would have skipped the band's Growing Pains in the '70s and made Moving Pictures their first album.
I have some problems with that.
Really?
Yeah.
He would have. Well, from an artist perspective, you sort of, when you're creating art, you're always going for the masterpiece. I think that's what he means.
Oh no, I get it, and I've certainly done stuff where I was like, wow, I feel like I'm there with this thing or whatever, and I'm kind of embarrassed by what I did leading up to that, because you're learning and it's not all perfect.
Yep.
Having said that, some of my favorite albums are what he's describing as albums that they made during their growing pains. They're perfect to me, and I couldn't imagine life without 2112.
Right.
I'm not sure I would want to do it. I couldn't imagine life without Farewell to Kings. I get it, again, that as the artist, you want to just take it from a certain point and that's what you want to present, but I can't live without those albums. And he didn't mean it, I'm sure. He was just angry when he said it.
He says, well, sure, Moving Pictures, Rush's eighth studio album, remains their biggest release 40 years later, and also one of their best. Peart, singer, bassist Geddy Lee, and guitarist Alex Lifeson spent the 70s refining how they made music, paring back the sprawling multi-part song cycles in favor of tighter structures that increasingly incorporated synthesizers and replacing the sci-fi and fantasy themes with lyrics celebrating dreamers and misfits. I think what the writer's trying to say is that the album is perfect, and it's sort of a perfect album.
Yeah.
I mean, is Permanent Waves a perfect album by comparison?
There are no perfect albums, in my opinion. But I do remember in Beyond the Lighted Stage, Neil Peart said that Moving Pictures is the album where we became us.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
So I get it. I understand. And it's about
is Moving Pictures their perfect album?
Probably to them, yeah. And we know it is, actually. Alex Lifeson said as much in that one interview from a couple of months ago. And everything that I've read about it or whatever is just, it's not just the music. I mean, it's just like the time and everything. Everything was just kind of working. That's not to say it didn't work after that, but you do reach these little peaks with things, and one of them has got to be the highest peak. They can't all be the highest peak.
Yeah,
and
right.
That was it for them.
Yeah. They found the vaccine with that album.
They found the vaccine, yeah. Controversially, I believe that their most perfect album is Signals, but I expect a lot of emails correcting me on that one.
Expect a lot of feedback on that one.
Feedback. I see what you did there.
You told me before that was your favorite album.
As most
I actually like feedback. I just forget about it all the time. And when it's on, I know what they're trying to do there. They're just having fun. That's it.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's an EP. That's the only reason I don't say it's one of their studio albums, because it's the only reason. Yeah. But again, I expect to be sternly upbraided for that one too, but that's
if anybody has an extra copy of feedback on vinyl, I'll buy it from you. I can't find it anywhere.
John will take it off your hands.
I'll take it off your hands. Yeah, I'll take all your Rush albums off your hands, folks. As most Rush fans know by now, Neil Peart's father, Glenn Peart, passed away a couple weeks ago on June 12th after a whirlwind battle with cancer, and the obituary is available online, and fans may send their condolences by donating to various charities in the name of the Peart family, including the RVH Foundation Peart Family Memorial Fund and Hospice Muskoka. The family is also raising funds for the Peart Family Memorial Fund via online auctions and has set up a new Facebook page for that purpose. Please look for that. On a related note, the Grafenberg Disciples have just released a new single inspired by Neil Peart, along with an associated music video. The track is titled "No Words," and all proceeds from the song will be donated to the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center Neil Peart Brain Tumor Research Fund. The music video can be seen on YouTube, and it contains cameos from Sully Erna, of Godsmack, Mike Portnoy, of the Winery Dogs, Matt Scannell of Vertical Horizon, and also features never before seen footage of Neil riding his motorcycle across the U.S. Sully Erna of Godsmack, he's from this area. I'd love to have Sully on. I know he's a huge Rush fan. So, Yardbarker posted their list of underrated albums from legendary bands this past week, and of course, Rush's Vapor Trails was included. And it is hotter than a vapor trail where I am right now.
Yeah.
Man. It's like 300 degrees. The fact that we already talked about how hot it's been, but
it bears repeating. It's hot.
It's hot. I'm sweating right now. The fact that Vapor Trails was made and Rush still existed in the early 2000s was truly remarkable, this writer says. Considering the late drummer and main lyricist Neil Peart was dealing with the deaths of daughter Selena in '97 and wife Jackie 1 year later. However, Peart pressed on and Rush released its first studio album in 6 years. It was a top 10 album in the US, and it did not include any keyboards or synthesizers. Highlights included, or guitar solos, I should say.
For that matter.
Yeah, it just didn't have many. I was looking for them. Highlights include the title track, Out of the Cradle, a great tune, and One Little Victory, another great tune, incredible drum intro, and of course, Secret Touch. Well, we like to do a flashback on the show before we get into our next guest, and this is Rush News Archive of October 2013. David on the Vapor Trails tip. David Bottrill talks about producer. David Bottrill talks about remixing Rush's Vapor Trails in a new interview. Dan, and this is a new interview in reference to October of 2013.
Right.
Dan, we were always on the fence about whether we loved Vapor Trails, the remix, or prefer the original version. You lean towards the original version because you like the sound of the original version.
It's not just that. It's just like I feel like that was the expression. That was the emotion. You know, and I know it was an incredibly hard time for them. I know that when they were remixing it, like Neil Peart couldn't even be in the room while it was happening because it was just such an emotionally difficult time for everybody. And the imperfections, I think, sort of drive that home, like what a hard task it was and how emotionally real it was. Did it need to be remixed? We can talk about that forever, I personally am like I think of the remix as like a companion to the original one.
Yeah.
I know a lot of fans like vastly prefer the remix because they feel like the original one was almost like not ready, like it was undercooked or overcooked, as some people.
The good thing is we have two to choose from, and we'll listen to whatever makes us feel good. And there are parts of the. The one thing about Vapor Trails that I love the original recording of a mix of Vapor Trails. The one thing that always bothered me is just no guitar solos. I like Alex's guitar solos. I like them. Yeah. I want to hear it, and a song without that just isn't right. And I think that's what Bottrill's treatment does is he brings out Alex in that way, and that's what I really like about the remixes.
He certainly didn't do anything that like took away from the songs or anything like that. It's, again, like I said, it's different. It's a companion. One of my favorite songs on the album's total sleeper cut is "Peaceable Kingdom," which I don't think nobody ever. I think that nothing about what makes me love that song was changed. Nothing about what makes me love that album was changed. I would say it was more like sort of like cleaned up for the job interview as opposed to,
I think
the first one is really, oh no, just the first one was like you were at the funeral.
Yeah.
That's,
I love Vapor Trail and I love Earthshine so much.
Earthshine is a fucking amazing song. Secret Touch, I think
Secret Touch is great. Yeah,
so good. So much good stuff.
Earthshine gives me like the tingles, the bumps, the hair.
Yeah.
Like ooh, yeah, Earthshine. Anyway,
right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like I just want to take a bath salt soak with some good taco on the keyboard on the turntable. Eating a taco in the bathtub.
Exactly. No, on a serious note, I guess my main takeaway from Vapor Trails when it came out was like that I just hadn't heard them disinvested in a record in a while. That's not to say they were phoning it in before or something like that, but I was like, this record really matters. This is a really important one.
It's different. It's powerful.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like any of their other stuff, and
right.
You know, and it's even more powerful knowing what the band went through to get to that point, and they trudge through it. They grow together, and they elevate themselves. You know.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I'm remembering now when
that could have been it for Rush. What if they just put that out and that was the end of it? You know.
I didn't even think we were getting that.
Yeah.
You know, when I heard about what happened, I was like, well, I guess that's it. You know, you can't expect someone to bounce back from that.
Right.
But I remember when it did come out and I bought it and I brought it home. As I was putting it into the CD player, I was almost nervous. Yeah. Not just because it was like, is it going to be any good? But it was also like, there's going to be a lot of emotional stuff. And am I ready to hear it? And what am I about to go through? Again, it's just a great album, and that's what I ended up with. But I was a little worried at first of like, I don't know what Grief plus Rush is going to turn out to be, but it turned out to be great.
Yeah, I mean, like any Rush fan that's listening now, you always anticipate the next version of Rush and what they were going to produce. And I remember getting that album and sitting in my car and just cranking the hell out of it and thinking like, oh, I can, this will grow on me. And that's the thing about Rush. It's like every new album, it wasn't like, ooh, this automatically, it was so hooky. You're just like in it. Yeah. It's sort of like you had to listen to it 1,000 times to get it. And that's when you know it's really good, you know.
That one I liked like right away the second I put it on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Otherwise, a lot of their albums took me like at least 3 listens before I felt like, okay, I kind of get what this is.
Right. All right, that's sort of what I mean. Well, Canadian record producer Bottrill, David Bottrill, is the man responsible for Rush's remix of 2002 Vapor Trails. And in 2013 of October, he sat down with popdose.com for an interview to discuss the remix. He had actually been on a short list of producers for the original release back in 2002. The band ultimately decided not to bring in an outside producer because they didn't want to introduce anything new or potentially uncomfortable for Neil at the time. Neil was still recovering from the passing of both, again, his daughter and wife a few years earlier. And here's what Bottrill had to say about the decision. I spent a day with them in the studio, but that's as far as it went. In retrospect, as much as I would have loved to work with them at the time, I think it was probably the correct decision not to throw another new element into their working environment. I would not have wanted to be part of the reason that this great band was unable to revitalize. And you know, here are some of Bottrill's comments on the remix itself. When I approach any mix, I will reference any rough or previous mix lightly to find balance or tones that the client might like. But in this case, I was aware that the band weren't happy with the final mixes they had, so I just approached it fresh with a little referencing to the originals. My philosophy was that they didn't like what they had, so I would just work with the material they gave me and do what I thought would work best for each song. The first mix took the longest to complete, but that was only a couple days. And once we were in the groove, the band usually only had little tweaks or suggestions and went mostly with what I presented them with. There was very little direction prior to starting. I did a test for them, as did some other engineers and producers. They liked most of them. But I think that they had wanted to try to work with me for some time, so perhaps that swayed their opinion towards my mix as opposed to others. Andy Curran, who works with the band, is also a friend of mine, and I think he was pulling for me to do the remix as well. And this may have had the influence. So anyway, to not sort of go on and on, I probably should reveal, if it's not quite obvious, who our next guest is on episode 47 of Two Guys Talking Rush. It's actually David Bottrill, who's just a super guy. He was really easy to work with and get on the show, and he offered up his time. He was very generous and offered up his time. You will notice that Dan is not on this episode because he was you were getting that tattoo removed from your
my tramp stamp.
Yeah. But I forget why you didn't. Well, it was probably some really good reason because, you know,
probably it was family or I'd fucked up. It's the most likely thing. Well, I'm going to go with that I probably fucked something up.
I missed you. I'm sorry. I needed you there. I felt like I was sort of floating in outer space. But I tried my best. I think I offered Mr. Bottrill a good interview and had some good. I did my homework and landed him some good questions. And well, here it is. Welcome, Mr. David Bottrill, to Two Guys Talking Rush. Thank you for coming on to Two Guys Talking Rush. And I've been doing some deep diving into your career. And boy, what an illustrious, incredible career you've had. I mean, Peter Gabriel, Smashing Pumpkins, Tool, Muse, Silverchair, Stain, Godsmack, on and on and on. When we talk about bands as diverse as that, let's say Peter Gabriel to Rush. And this is sort of an upfront, forward-asking question. I'll get into some of it later. How do you approach such diversity in music? I'm always amazed at engineers when you have a band like Rush, and then when you have I guess Peter Gabriel has a legacy in prog rock, but his solo stuff not so much. How do you deal with diversity in your business?
Well, as an engineer or a producer, my job is to bring the best out of the musician in the band that I can. So if I'm doing a mix for somebody, then my job is to try and make it sound as the artist would have want to have it realized. And if I'm a producer, same thing, only adding in the composition and the performance and stuff like that. So really, I just approach it as album by album and song by song, and genre doesn't really play into it. It's just, I have a skill set that maybe transcends a few different kinds and styles of music. So that maybe gives me a little bit of experience in which to draw on. But I just approach it from song to song and say, well, what do I think is the best way to present this song to the world, and what's the best way to write it, or what's the best way that it should sound, or like that. And so I explore different ways and experiment, and when I'm happy, then I present that to the band, or present that to the world.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, a question like that is drawn upon this sort of stigma we have in the U.S., at least, with labeling music by genre and by style. And some bands just stick to a different style. Other bands or formula, I should say, other bands, just each album is a different representation of what they do. So I just wondered if it's hard to treat a band that just wants to stay within that sort of pocket of success, right? I mean, I guess if they're really focused on selling albums, what has worked for them in the past, and if that's a challenge for you to say, hey, well, if I pull this out, you're going to sound different here. And if there's ever a conflict with a band that wants to stay within a style,
Well, I have a little speech at the beginning of that I use when I work with bands. And I always say that I'll fight for what I think is right in a project or a song. But ultimately, you have to go out and play it every night. So I'll support your decision. If you fight just as hard as I do and you win that battle, that's fine. I want somebody as an artist to be passionate about what they're doing. I think people hire me particularly because I have a sort of wider range of experiences and different styles of music. And so they want me to bring that kind of experience into what they do. So I don't get hired generally by a band that wants to make the same album they made last time. Mm-hmm. I get hired by a band that wants to make something different. So for example, when Tool hired me to do the Anima record, I thought initially that they were looking for somebody else, and thought I was somebody else because I'd never done a record with a band quite like them before. But as it turns out, they had listened to things for the previous couple of years, and my name kept popping up on the different records that they all individually liked. So they thought, they knew what they wanted out of the metal side of what they did. Oh. They wanted somebody else to come in to make them not sound like every other Los Angeles metal band at the time. So that's why they would hire me. So as far as the going into, maybe radio friendliness of things, I always say to bands, or I always try to impart that, there are what I call door openers in songs, and there are songs that are band favorites. So I always say that, why not do things that provide a little bit of an open door for more people to come through, and then you show them really what you're all about with the rest of the album. Yeah. So you can call it singles or radio friendly or whatever you want to call it. And I never try to do something in order to, I think this will sell well. That's not my criteria. Yeah. My criteria is the song the best it can possibly be? And if that sells, then that's a bonus for me. I know that's not a very sort of record company friendly way to approach things.
Well, we're not in that world anymore, right? In a lot of ways.
Well, we are and we aren't. There's still those pressures. I still have those pressures. I've just been doing some project with a band that I think you would actually really like, called Crown Lands.
Cool.
And there was, I wouldn't say there was pressure from the label, but there was certainly, with one of the songs, they were like, okay, you know what, this song is really great, but is it possible to make it a little bit more palatable in some ways? Because it did have a lot of, what the sort of regular world would call odd time signatures or different changes that were not as standard as other things. And I said, yeah, well, we can do that. And I talked to the band about it. We tried different things, and they were happy with the changes. They weren't unhappy with them. But there was that suggestion, I'd say, from the people that have to ultimately go out and try and sell the record, which is the record label. They do have a right, I think, to make suggestions in that way. But they should also, with that right, have the responsibility to support the band that they signed for their creativity. So it kind of goes both ways.
It's interesting, especially these days. We have a band like Greta Van Fleet, right? Who just get sort of slammed for. I don't like to say copying or mimicking, but sort of emblemizing the legacy of Led Zeppelin and how they sound. Now,
paying homage is what I would say.
I'm cool with that, and especially where rock seems to be not so high on the totem these days. But in the U.S.,
never goes away, though.
It doesn't.
It always goes away.
It does. There's an ebb and flow to rock and roll. Yeah.
And the fan base is loyal.
It's true. It's
right?
so true.
In rock music and metal particularly, right?
Yeah.
Metal, it's always there under the surface. They're the nicest people. The fans of metal are the nicest people you'd ever want to meet.
True. Yeah.
And they're damn loyal.
It's so true, man. But with like Greta Van Fleet, where they're trying to capture a sound that's reminiscent of these great albums like, Houses and Holy. I think Eddie Kramer worked on that album.
Sure.
And, is it challenging for a producer or an engineer for a band that sounds like the 70s to maintain and capture that sound? So anyway, we could probably keep digging deeper, and it'll never end conversations like this. But you spent and by the way, I had a couple of Tool questions, and I am a major Tool fan, and thank you for your work with Tool, by the way. It's incredible stuff, man. Very talented band. But you spent 20 years living in the UK, and now you're based in Toronto. So I did not know that about you, that you are a native to Canada. And so tell me, where did you grow up, and did you have, as a youth, did you have a connection to Rush? Was there an early connection to Rush growing up in Canada?
Well, certainly as growing up in Canada as a youth in the 1970s, of course I had a connection with Rush.
Yeah.
I grew up in a town called Dundas. Dundas is on the west end of Hamilton. It's a little valley town, very pretty. A lot of people ended up at the time working at Stelco or DeFasco in Hamilton, or the various support industries around the steel industry. Mm-hmm. My dad was in trucking, and he would, his company, one of his companies that he worked for would end up, moving ingots around for the steel companies or heavy machinery, that sort of thing. And I grew up going to school and going to college there in Hamilton, and was unsure about what I wanted to do. So I ended up, my girlfriend at the time had an uncle who ran a recording studio, and that uncle was Bob Lanois.
Oh, wow.
And Bob and Dan let me hang out at the studio for a while. And then eventually when a job came available, they gave me a job. And then when Dan went to England to work with Peter, he took me to work with him over there as an assistant. And I jumped ship and worked for Peter for 9 years, and then stayed in there. Working for Peter was great because I got a real eye opener to lots of different styles of music that I don't think I would have been exposed to as readily had I not worked for Peter and been in that environment. So, hearing music from all over the world was fascinating to me, and gave me an idea of what music could be, along with the experience of starting out at Grant Avenue, where Brian Eno was doing his ambient series of records, and they were doing the Apollo soundtrack and things like that. That was, again, just really unusual style of music. As well as the late night Jingle House that was also going on there. So
wasn't Eno working on it was airport public address systems or something like that. There was something.
Music for Airports.
Music for Airports. Yes,
was the name of the record. Yeah, the first one of them. Music for films, music for airports.
Right.
The Apollo soundtrack.
Right.
Apollo film soundtrack. Yeah,
Incredible.
all that stuff. Really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Pure
Totally.
experimentation in the studio.
Love it. Yeah, no, excellent stuff. Well, I had done some research I've written a book on the history of live concert sound through the life and career of a man by the name of Bill Hanley, who ran Hanley Sound during the early 60s and 70s, coming out of Newport. And Eno came up a little bit in that research because of his research and his work. So very interesting stuff. So you, but when do you think because here you are, you grew up in Canada, you end up working with Rush, and of course you're into this sort of genre of music as a youth. When do you think you first heard Rush during this time, these years, you think?
I mean, on the radio, Closer to the Heart, you know, and they played in my hometown. They played the Dundas Arena at one point, and I can still, in my mind, see that poster that was there. It was very exciting. I didn't go; I was too young, but my brother went. And like later on in the genre of three-piece bands, Triumph came and played my high school.
Wow!
So they played incredible. My high school, and it was a funny story because they. Our principal at the time didn't understand setup. And so he wouldn't let the band come in until after school was over. So they were setting up from, basically 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So the concert didn't actually start till about 11 at night.
That's hilarious.
But I grew up listening to Rush, of course. And they had the number of albums that they did, 2112 early on, and then Farewell to Kings, and then, all that stuff. And it was, a part of our sort of musical tapestry in Dundas. Dundas was a big Zeppelin town amongst my friend group. Yeah, Zeppelin was a big band.
Yeah.
But even then, when I was growing up in that era, we still went to see Saturday Night Fever at the theater, and came out, disco's not that bad. The whole disco sucks era. It's like, well, not all of it, that there is something to it, So
ABBA, the Bee Gees. There's some mammoth groups. Yeah.
You couldn't always admit that you like those things, but they could be your guilty pleasures at the time.
Now they can be, for sure. ABBA's just an incredible group. Yeah.
Powerhouse of writing. Yeah. Powerhouse of writing.
Incredible stuff. You can't.
Two guys are talking, Rush. 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 Two guys.
Stay tuned for part 2 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast next week.